when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is just smile.
Episode 2, Man of Mastery Podcast. Boochcraft co-founder Andrew Clark talks business, fatherhood, and failure. Andrew Clark, Chief Brewing Officer at Boochcraft, California's first alcoholic kombucha. Urban farmer, deep thinker, father of 2 young boys, and one of my favorite people. Andrew, what's up, buddy? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. What is Boochcraft?
Wow, Boochcraft is a lot of things. So Boochcraft was my ticket out of the corporate world. It's my current creative focus. It's my golden ticket out of the rat race, and I guess in terms of like financial stability, it's my legacy. It's a place I can take my children to play.
Nice.
But it's also it's the most important opportunity to grow as an individual, because when you have business partners like this and you've got lots of success and lots of moving parts and hot rapid pace of everything, you can't let your ego get in the way. You can't let your personality traits or other people's personality traits define or set you back. It's literally this mad dash to a finish line that is not even painted, and it basically forces you to look inside and grow as a person, as opposed to
Nice.
running around with the old programs that you've had well, for me personally, all the old programs that I had running, where I tended to blame people and tended to play the victim, and tended all the childhood games it used to play. It basically forced me to grow up, and so that was the best thing that I can say about it.
Wow. Amazing. Okay, that's heavy stuff to start, and that's perfect, right? Because I want to talk about Boochcraft as a business and an entrepreneur startup story and a success. But I figure we'll take this thing where you already went, which is we're going to talk about you and the world and life and being a grown up. So let's that's perfect. In fact, you and I know each other from the corporate world. And you've done exactly that. You're living the dream, broke out of the rat race, and you're all in on Boochcraft. But people make those transitions in different ways. Some guys kind of moonlight and then transition to something they've found that is more their passion. You really did go all in, didn't you?
Yeah. So I was so fed up with the career path that I'd chosen, and I had basically completely disengaged from everything that I was doing professionally, and spent a lot of time in the corporate environment looking for creative outlets. I was like, this isn't my path. This isn't what makes me happy. I don't know what my path is. I've never stopped and thought about it. I don't know what's going on. So I just spent all this time, even in the office, looking for things that interest me. I was taking random courses online, the free courses that some of the the nice schools offer now. I was buying tool, woodworking equipment. I was buying gardening equipment. I was buying brewing equipment. I was basically trying everything I could think of to stay sane. And around the time I was at my breaking point, my 2 friends approached me and said, "Hey, I want to start a kombucha company." And I said, immediately I was like, "There's something here, but this isn't it." Because have you seen? I thought to myself, the whole, there's aisles now of kombucha brands, and I've never give up a 6-figure job with a stable 6-figure job, no matter how much I hated it, to pursue something that's already been done. It had to be original, and but because I was already brewing beer at the time, and basically developed a sensitivity to it. I I like to say I was in denial that beer was making me sick, but I kept brewing it anyway until my wife finally just said, "Look, you're killing yourself. You got to stop doing this." And so it was around that time they approached me to open this kombucha brand, and I said, "Well, let's just make an alcoholic kombucha. That doesn't exist, and we can be as transparent as possible. We can um, we can basically be the first alcohol company to be completely open with everything that's going in it, the process, the sourcing, the packaging, everything about this thing can just be laid out directly for people. Because currently, there's a lot of additives in wines and not so much beer, but there still can be, and a lot of ciders and stuff. The whole fermentation. There's all these things that kind of kill off, yeast and bacteria, which can also kill off things inside your gut as well if you're drinking it. So I basically came back to my partners and said, if we do this, we got to make this, boozy. Because we can use all the same technology that beer provides, all the same equipment, all the same everything that is already in place. Everything that's been established in the beer and wine world, we can use all the same equipment, all the same tap lines, canning lines, bottling lines, bottles, everything, and just create this new category and put it right on top next to the existing brands.
Nice.
And as soon as that struck with them, it was within, I can't remember exactly, but within weeks we had the business plan, we had the business papers signed, we were notarizing documents, we were looking for facilities to rent. It was just so real. It was so obvious that this was the ticket. And everywhere we went in Whole Foods, the buyers were like, alcoholic kombucha? How many can I buy now? And we just got this overwhelming positive feedback. And it was like this rush that you can't describe of just serendipity, where doors would open, people would come to you, everything just seemed to be flowing. You like hit this stream of success, just like you were paddling downstream in a river. Like everything was just going perfectly, and there's very little resistance.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and so then I went back to my company and walked into I didn't even talk to my boss. I went to his boss and just said, "Look, I would like to be fired immediately. I need to collect unemployment because I'm putting 100% of my wealth into this business. I'm going all in. This is the next phase of my life. This is how it's going to go." And we've just experienced such wild success since then that we haven't even gotten up for air.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. Let's pause there for a second to unpack a couple things. So I know I've heard it said that for those big decisions in life, a lot of times it comes down to it comes down to inspiration or desperation, and it sounds like you got almost a little bit of both. Maybe your own desperation put you at the right place, and bit of a push from your business partners, and then maybe a bit of inspiration. You mentioned your wife kind of giving you a nudge as well, like, hey, the craft brewing, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and it's a hot space, but you're literally killing yourself with beer. You need a different path.
Yeah. And on a side note, what was absolutely beautiful about my wife is that she was 2 months pregnant when she encouraged me to quit my job. So we were losing the revenue and the insurance while she was pregnant. So that's support. If anybody's looking for a woman, look for that.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, you'd have to say she's pretty vital to the journey you've been on and your success.
Yeah.
Before we go too much beyond the business side of things, so craft brewing, you guys are completely unique. You're leading the way into a new niche, and I know you guys also have 5 core values posted on your website, including quality.
Right. Yeah. It's just been so so deeply ingrained in my whole path that what you put in your body is going to change the way you feel, and what you breathe is going to change the way you feel. And um, that's like that's a whole bunch to unpack there. But basically, we're being assaulted by all of these synthetic ingredients and synthetic materials and synthetic, fire retardants or whatever that that have that have challenged me and from being my best performing self. And so the so the first core value of Boochcraft was obviously like, we're not going to put anything in there that is going to activate somebody's immune system. We're going to use best practices with cleanliness. We're going to use soaps that are biodegradable. We're going to use everything that not only is good for the person, but also good for returning to the earth. So we're composting all of our waste, all of our, we're using Dr. Bronner's soaps to clean the tanks. It's all biodegradable. And so that's where the quality core value comes in. As far as sustainability goes, it's like, it's so obvious to me that if you're, kind of like the Burning Man leave no trace mentality, where it's like, if you're going to walk into an environment, why would you destroy it? When you leave that environment, you're going to take all of the crap that you brought in that's not going to, naturally become a part of where you were. And when you're growing food, or when you're chopping down trees, you're going to do it with this mindful attitude of, I don't want to destroy it all.
Right.
And it's so simple and obvious to me. So that's where the sustainability core value comes in. And then the community one, there's this epidemic of detachment. And I forget the guy, he traveled all over the world looking for why people are addicted to things and really to substances. And he found that they're lacking connection to people. And so they create a connection with these substances. That's the relationship. Is they create a special relationship with these substances as an alternative to having relationships with people. It's really important to me to rebuild our community. And so that means we need to start embracing people's differences. We need to start, I mentioned in our previous meeting a few days ago, perspective taking. We need to be able to understand where people come from and their histories. We need to talk empathetically. We need to understand, like, rather than having sympathy for people all the time, we need to empathetically feel what people are feeling. So, because that's what creates bonding. That's what creates trust. That's what creates rapport and all of these things. So this community aspect is really important to me, to build as a culture internally, but also project that out into the world. It's almost like, the old company adage is customers first. You always got to make your customers happy. Really, I want to make the employees happy, and then that's just going to be contagious everywhere. Any interaction that somebody has with one of our employees, they're going to be like, I want them to think, wow, that person is pumped.
Right. That seems like exactly the right place to start, and then let it spread from there. And you guys are growing like crazy, and you got growth plans. And so the culture building and the community building, and then by extension, as you get to be more than just local, it has got to be a challenge that you face at some point. And for you, I think of you as an artist. When you walked me through your brewery last week, and just speaking to quality, I expected a good tour, and knowing you, an amazing setup and process, but all the meticulous detail that you took us through in dedication to quality first, dedication to culture, to taking care of your employees, and helping them take care of themselves as well as you do yourself. It left me as really something really special. And you, I think of you as an artist. You are the chef behind the formula, the subtleties and the mixology of the kombucha. And I know you put a lot of passion into that. So sort of making that connection, how do you deal with people who like what you create and the acceptance, and people who tune in to what you want to put out there? How do you know when it's right to get a new flavor out to market? How'd you know it was the right time to go to market in the first place? How'd you know it was ready? And how do you, as an artist, as a business person, how do you digest feedback and kind of find your path?
Wow. Okay. So, yeah, a few questions, but the one thread that ties them all together is if it's the best, if I produce something and it is, and I know inside intrinsically that this was the best version of that flavor that I could have made, then I don't give a shit about anything else. And the crazy thing is when you go out and deliver that to people, the inflection or the look in your eyes and the actual energy behind handing someone a glass, and I have this big smile on my face, and that becomes contagious as well. And that carries, and then people are saying this could be my new favorite. This is amazing. And people are just the energy behind the delivery, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
No, I saw that when
yeah,
with the group we walked through the brewery with, the impact that you personally had on them, your delivery, the way you spoke to the business, the way you spoke to the formulas and the product you created, and that passion. You said passion. It clearly was infectious, is infectious, and made an impact.
well, yeah. I'm glad you noticed that. That's also that was one of my personal development growth achievements was confidence. Early on is you know I too externalized some of my value. I would worry about pleasing everybody. I would worry about having doing it perfectly. And then one of our staff members, Kyle, actually told me, he's like, dude, nobody knows what it's supposed to taste like in your head.
Mm.
So when you go out and you're like, oh, it's not right, or it's, just let let them have their experience. You don't need to interfere with your experience. And that's basically what leveled me up to just saying, look, this is the best version of this flavor that I'm going to create, and I love it, um, and let's move with it. And
Nice.
that's been the driver.
That's great insight.
So cool. Yeah, and then now as we grow, the whole point of this, the whole point of creating something that doesn't exist is not to ask people what they want. It's to give them what they've never even. It's to provide something they never knew they wanted,
I never knew
and
that they
and
needed.
be yeah, and be the one that came up with it.
Wow. So that feeling that you can convey when you hand that beverage, that flavor to somebody in person. I mean, is that something that you think about in creating a brand and a culture, and how do you convey the Boochcraft feeling to somebody you've never met, right? Or somebody who sees it on an aisle in a store, or somebody who sees you on Instagram.
See, that's actually really challenging because in our experience, taste is the driver, but on a store shelf, there's no real way to. It's almost like, yeah, taste is the primary driver of our success. Any meeting we go to, any tasting we do, we just walk in, open a bottle, hand it to them, and that's it. The sale is done.
I mean, it does bring the point about competitors, and I mean, you're the flavor genius. Um, so just so you're an innovator. You guys are a niche creator and leader, and now you have competitors, or I'll go as far as calling them copycats or counterfeiters.
Yeah,
Let's say they can come up with a flavor profile. They've got an Andrew, and they can come up with something that appeals to somebody's taste buds, um,
right.
as well as yours does. But the painstaking detail that you go through in sourcing your raw materials, juicing on site, being fully organic and certified, and you could go on and on. Does that do you feel like that ultimately comes through in the product, in the people who love your product and spread the word? Does it come through in the taste? Does that win the battle in the end? And you know, is there a trade-off? Is there a trade-off between quality and profit as a business? Can you have both, or is it a compromise that's sustainable and you can live with?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that the effort we put in every step of the way, almost there's almost an it's an intangible imprint that's left inside the experience, and it might not be, without getting too woo woo, I can't claim that there's some energetic imprint of everything that happens, this positivity that they taste in the bottle, but there's signals that people get. They might interact with a Boochcraft person, or they might see a smile on the face of the person driving a Boochcraft van, or they might see someone else drinking it and look really happy. And so there's there's this subtlety, this like subconscious cultural benefit of appealing to people who get it, who like what we're doing, and it can come in any one of those forms. Like if we support a local farmer, some person might drink Boochcraft because they grew up on a family farm. If we put the certified organic, you know, label on the bottle, someone might drink us because they noticed an improvement in health when they started eating organic food. That's basically what we're looking for before they get to taste it. There's this impression that has been very intentional, from the outset, that we want people to trust us. We want people to feel good. We want to have an emotional anchor of positivity when they see the label, when they see the package.
Yeah, and maybe community really isn't global as much as it's become a catchphrase. I mean, community really is local, and you guys are growing like crazy, bigger than ever. But it still feels like you see it, you pick it up as a product, as a brand. It still feels like it has a local, like it's a local company. Like you
Yeah,
pick it up and you feel like Boochcraft, their home is where you live. That it's made with ingredients from your local farmer. You're literally supporting your community by consuming the product. That's what it feels like to me. I don't know if that's intentional.
oh yeah, it's very intentional. I mean, if you think about um, the wild bacteria that live on the fruit grown in the region that you're buying the product, that went into the product. You're physically consuming your local environment. You're becoming connected to your environment by actually eating the juice and the
Okay.
bacteria. So you're populating your gut with I mean, all of this has been very deliberate.
Okay.
And 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 that's why when we go to other regions, it's really important to me to use local farm, collaborate with local farms there, so the people that drink, the flavors that are unique to that region can have that connection as well.
Okay. Awesome. So does that
Yeah,
model scales? I mean, what's your vision? How big does this get?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, the pressing our own fruit was my biggest fear at the beginning, because I didn't I didn't know what I didn't I don't know how much faith to put in the organic industry. I didn't know if it was going to be co-opted by big ag. I didn't know what was going on, and we're kind of seeing that. And but luckily there's a new certification coming out very soon. You know, the regenerative agriculture that's even better than organic. Um, so it was scary to think, how are we gonna find all this fruit? How are we gonna maintain the demand of juicing all this stuff in house? And really, what put my mind at rest was that, um, it's it's like what we buy is like our voting. It's really the only form of democracy left, is whatever we put our money toward is what the world is going to produce more of. And so there might be a little bit of a lag, but if we just keep buying only certified organic fruit, then farms are going to start certifying themselves. But really, we haven't seen a problem so far with the scaling. And and if we do, if we can't, if there's if there's a shortage of organic grapefruits or ginger or limes or something, then that's actually okay. That's what we tell the customer. We say, hey, we're at the mercy of nature. We're at the mercy of um, you know, or like if, or, especially if organic fruit becomes so high in demand that there's not enough left for us, that's good. That's what we want. We want the world to be aware that this is a better form of food. And so in the end, everybody wins. Even though we might have to not make a flavor and we might have to lose out on a little bit of revenue, we can make a new flavor.
Nice. I love that. Yeah. I mean, we really can vote with our dollars, vote with our feet, insist on quality, and maybe a couple more just business topics before we get to some more of the underlying goodness.
Cool.
We talked about passion a little bit. I want to ask you about purpose. Do you believe everybody has a purpose, or we each have a unique purpose? And do you feel like, or even at a point in time in life, do you have a purpose? Do you feel like this is your purpose, or is your purpose right now? And as you mentioned serendipity. Is purpose something you have to go looking for? How do you discover it? How do you uncover it?
Well, that's actually timely for me because I made a commitment this year to find my purpose. And I've been doing a lot of research on what does that look like? What is the format of your purpose? Because I can get real analytical too. What is it a one sentence? Is it a word? Is it, what does this mean? But really, what has resonated with me the most is when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is just smile, because fuck it. Like, why do anything else? And
nice. Yep.
I want to be able to decide every day when I get up, I'm going to do something for this purpose. I'm my why. The why of doing everything is kind of like synonymous with the purposes. And currently it's just create. I want to go create today. It doesn't have to be something tangible. It can create a new relationship. It could create a new like realization or a level up in my own path, or it could be something like really difficult too. Like go find something that's hard, that I've been like a tough conversation with somebody, or go put myself out there and do something embarrassing, or whatever. Like create something. And so that's what's been working for me now. But I feel like it's too general, and there's going to be more to come with that.
Yeah. How important is that? Getting outside of your comfort zone?
Oh, that's absolutely the most number one critical thing in my experience. It is absolutely critical to use fear and resistance as your compass. Go right in the direction of what is the most scary and the thing that you make up the most excuses not to do. That is absolutely the number one thing for me.
I heard someone say recently that fear isn't to be avoided. In fact, fear is probably a really primal signal, but a signal that what you're facing is probably something really important and that you need to go after.
Yeah. And I guess I could qualify it with, don't go like, running off a cliff because it's scary. But like when it comes to overcoming your personal fears, these fears that might have been created way back at childhood, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Things that, put you in fight or flight or freeze. And those are the things that are going to dig you out of whatever setbacks you had in childhood. That's going to allow you to become the best version of yourself.
I mean, fear, I guess the way I think about it, probably was a very, very useful built-in mechanism for survival. And obviously, don't go run off the cliff or something equally dangerous. But we don't face down a charging tiger too much anymore in the modern world, or something where a real biological fear is warning you of a real danger. I think for the most part now, we're just you're dealing with your past, you're dealing with an imagined fear, you're dealing with anticipation of something that's maybe not even real. And I don't know. I think we've gotten soft in the sense of not really doing hard things anymore, and so you sort of lose the muscle memory of distinguishing things that we really ought to be afraid of from sort of false fears that are keeping us back from whatever it is we should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You hit it. You nailed it. It's the if you look at, I think the definition of trauma, the key word in there is that it's perceived. Like it can be so vivid, so emotional, and so visceral, but it doesn't. This deep fear or memory can be that powerful, but it could have just been completely perceived. It could have been completely not there, but the effect is the same on the body and on your subconscious. And because most of these things happen when you're a child.
So you got what, two young boys now? How old?
Yes. Yeah, 3 and 3 months.
Yeah. So how much do you think about that and about sort of what you want to teach your boys and how you want to be and how you want to teach them?
Oh yeah, that's all I think about. First, so yeah, I was kind of touching on it, but basically the way I see it is when you're a child, when you're an infant, and your parents, leave the room or they let you, cry yourself to sleep. So there's this emotional imprint that is left with the child that that is very, very scary. The way I raise my children is, they don't care what you say. They're just going to model what you do.
Right.
So if I'm yelling at my wife all the time in front of them, he's going to yell at his friends and yell at us and yell at everybody, even though we say don't yell.
Right.
And
Yeah, I'm laughing
and
because I'm a few years ahead of you in that, and our son's 11 now, and you've obviously got more to come and fun years ahead of you with your boys, but you start to see behaviors. You're talking about learned behavior, and we'll see these learned behaviors, good or bad, and my wife and I look at each other, and it's like, well, where did that one come from? Or, who taught that one?
yeah,
or who gave him
yeah,
that gift? Or whose fault was that bad behavior?
right, right. When these children are young, they are the center of the universe. There's nothing else that exists. They don't have that. They don't have that awareness of outside of themselves. And so it's really important to, or to constantly remind them that we aren't doing this to you. We're not, like, these things aren't being done because of you. These are outside of you. We, like mommy and daddy's fight, or me, running off to work because I'm late for a meeting is not your fault. And then the second part of that is, rather than shutting down all of their emotions, rather than being like, hey, man up, or shut up, or calm down, you embrace that emotional expression, and you go and you sit in that state with them, and you empathize with them, and you say, this is valid. What you're feeling now is valid. Nothing good. This, even if it's a good, bad emotion, or fear, or anger, these are all good emotions. These are appropriate. This is your world. This is how you feel, and sit with it. Learn what this emotion is. Learn how it makes you feel, and what that does is it allows them to appropriately process the emotion.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's super powerful. And I mean, you said earlier, starting a business made you grow up. Sounds to me like having your sons has done that like 10x, and probably
Oh
changed
yeah,
you more than anything else.
big time. Yeah.
What's something different about fatherhood that you never expected?
Well, I mean, obviously it is literally the hardest thing
Yeah, no
any
doubt.
any human being can endure. I mean, it's like,
It's got to be the
but then,
most challenging and yet like emotionally positive and rewarding experience somebody can do.
yeah, Yeah, and it's always slants toward the positive because it was your choice to bring them. It, I mean, it was my choice to bring them, and it's something that I'm never going to flip around on him. I'm never going to say that he owes me all the things I did for him. It was 100% my choice.
Yeah. Have you thought about, and maybe you're 3 years into it, so maybe not, but have you thought about what the most important things are that you want to focus on with the boys, or leave them with, or leave for them, if you will?
Yeah, I really am not big on. Well, I love insights, but I'm not, or but I don't really lead with those a lot. I just sort of, I just want, I want them to develop uh, uninhibited the way they are meant to develop. I want them to decide everything for themselves. Of course, it's almost like you have, like when you go bowling, you put the bumpers,
Right.
you
Yeah.
blow up the
Right.
big
Right.
bumpers on it.
Right.
I'm gonna be there to have some sort of, some sort of hard boundaries. But I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to impose all of the things that you missed out on onto your children. You know, and if they can intrinsically generate their own drive for their interests, then they're going to be successful. They're going to be.
Yeah. No, I think we're all, have no idea what we're doing and trying to figure it out. Um, and always a work in progress. But I mean, a couple things and we have really done and been focused on. I have a really good friend, and he told me a long time ago that the way his family and his community raised him is that he had his formal education in school, and then
Right.
he was sent off to travel internationally for like 3 months by himself. And obviously, he was a little older at
Awesome.
that point, and maybe that was somewhat of a rite of passage event. But the
Mhm.
reason for that prescription was that was also seen as part of his education. That it was important to get beyond, his worldview and expand his worldview with what he was going to see and encounter out there and appreciate. So that is something I'm trying to instill along the way is exposure to things internationally and culturally that broaden the worldview and start to realize that there are many different ways to think about the same things and appreciate and realize there are things out there that you're going to like more than maybe what you knew or grew up with or familiar with, and likewise, you're going to get exposed to the classic things where you come home and appreciate what you do have. So
Right.
that's been one big one for us, and another that I mean that one's sort of easier to execute. Another one that I sort of have in my mind that's a little harder for me to articulate or figure out how to practice. Um, I would guess my wife is probably better at implementing this. Is trying to figure out. I think you and I were talking about one of your boys who's just got a very strong personality.
Yeah.
And as a young child and the parent of that young child, it can be challenging, right? But you don't want to knock that edge off of them. It's something that they've been gifted with, and at some point, it's going to be a real asset in life. So, what I've been trying to figure out is, where how do you? It's not binary. How do you find that balance between hard and soft? How do you build somebody who, as a guy, is going to be there and able to be strong and stand up, but also be compassionate and soft and emotional and caring and things like that. So I don't know, a little story from along the way. My son got called to the principal's office a few years ago for effectively a fight, which I think was like a couple pushes. And what had happened is he was sitting with a couple of his friends at lunch, and for whatever reason, the school at that time was mixing kids of all different ages and grades for lunch. These guys were relatively young, and older kid comes along, and for I think the second day in a row, stole the lunch from the friend of my son. So the second time that happened, the second day that happened, my son stood up, literally and figuratively, for his friend to stop this other kid from stealing his lunch. So part of that was, I have no problem with you getting in trouble, standing up for somebody, and doing the right thing. But the other side of the story, which also became an interesting point, is the boy who had taken the lunch turns out was in some sort of family and financial situation where he was hungry and wasn't getting fed. And it wasn't a bullying thing, it was actually a necessity thing. So we were able to kind of hit both, which became really sort of deep for, a young boy, is like, kudos for recognizing something and doing what you thought was right. But, there's more to the story here. And you can also try to think about, the classic, put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and maybe there's more to what you see on the surface, and that compassion component to what's going on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that, because there's so many lessons that the child can learn from in that experience, and the main lesson is that the system of getting everybody in trouble is what's broken. and it's like, I mean, and because it's just going to create more fear and lashing out against the system when you're constantly in fear of the enforcement of it. It's ridiculous.
No, yeah, no doubt. And part of that there as well is just projecting ourselves, making assumptions about what's going on. In some ways, we're still that child where the world revolves around us. And so, for myself, in the lifelong and even more recent journey of working on myself, you're doing a lot of the same. One thing that I encountered, maybe a couple of years ago, is I started to make, I think, some forward progress for myself. And I started to get frustrated with some of the people around me who I thought, why aren't they dedicated to self-improvement in the same ways? Or, why aren't they going through the same effort? And, started, in some sense, to think about, I don't know, think almost more in an isolationist sense of like, well, maybe I should only surround myself with people who have the same level of dedication to what I thought were similarly worthy endeavors. And maybe there's something to that, but then I think I maybe grew beyond that to say, look, we're all, this is the way I think of it now, is we're all at different places at different times, and truly are unique in our challenges and our assets. So I've just tried to, I don't know, maybe refocus things on just like what I can do, and maybe what I can share by example, as opposed to, I don't know, thinking too much about how somebody else in their journey compares to where I am in mine.
Yeah, that's I went through the same thing where I almost any attempt that I made to level up, I would want to then become the guru for other people, and I like want to bring them and help them along as well. It was, I mean, similar but different than when you said you were a little irritated by other people's lack of attempt. I was like, well, hey, I know the answer. Let's all do this together, or I can relate now to you. Come on, I'll pull you out of the funk.
Right.
But what I've come to realize is you can categorize people. I mean, you actually said the answer already, is that you just go find people that you relate to. You change your environment and you set up relationships where people are doing that, and that's basically what you and I are doing, which is pretty cool. How come back around after all these years. But the other insight that I found useful is you can quickly sort of categorize people as kind of a peer or a reference group or a mentor. As you're kind of going through life, you can find your own categories, but really it goes back to your question about your purpose and your why. Like if you know what that is every day, then you can find people that satisfy, or that can help you get closer to that purpose, or help you stay on the course of that purpose. And you can just sort of catalog the people in your life, and just by thinking about what you want to change in your life, you can use that as your driver. And you can say, okay, well, this person will be a mentor. He's badass. And you know, he might be right now, but and not right later or whatever. But you, but then this person might just be a peer that's kind of where I am, and then there's a reference group where you just kind of say, I feel like I'm sort of not very, I don't really resonate with these people, but there's always something to learn from everyone. So you can just sort of do like these quick little check-ins, and that's what I've been doing. And to me, it's really productive and effective to just sort of go, okay, well, this person, you know, I'm not going to connect with emotionally, but experientially, like maybe, there's something I'm going to learn from them, or or this person is way beyond my path, but on the path, and I want to learn from them. Does that
Nice.
make sense?
It does. Yeah. No,
Yeah, yeah,
that's really good. I think I'll take that away and try to keep more of that in mind. I think that'll be helpful to me if only me. Um,
yeah.
yeah. And maybe let's hit on, kind of the purpose thing just a little bit more. And I know I want to be conscious of time. We probably need to wrap it up here fairly soon. You and I could go on for a long time. We'll probably have to do another one of these in
Yeah,
the future. Um,
cool.
but you might have said it in terms of sort of resolve or commitment. When you do have an idea of your why, or what your purpose may be at a point in time, um, one of the other things you and I were talking about recently is, the concept of sort of leveling up and then a plateau, and leveling up and a plateau, and that some of the really interesting stuff happens along those plateaus, or um, other people have called it the dip, right? I think I mentioned to you the Seth Godin book called The Dip, and
Mm.
actually I have a copy for you, and
Oh, thanks.
that the concept there, I think, at least what I took away from it, is that there's going to be this period of time, this plateau, this dip, that is a real challenge. Challenges are going to present themselves in different ways, whether it's your development as a person or as a family or as a business. But it's almost like that's a natural. It's there by nature. It's there as a test of your resolve to see who's serious about getting to the other side of the dip, and getting to where you need to be. But at the same time, it's not just about resolve. It's you sort of have to know that you're on the right path to be able to have the resolve to get through there.
Yes. When we, when I decided to quit my job and pursue making alcoholic kombucha, I I I fermented one of them with success. I was able to take a very acidic kombucha and raise the alcohol to 7% the first time, and it was beautiful. And then never again for months. It was like there was some crack in the in the you know in the plane of existence that allowed me to see the possibility,
Wait, so
but I
months of
wasn't able.
iterations and trying again,
Uh,
and
yeah,
yeah, okay.
like hundreds of iterations of trying again over and over and over. I couldn't do it, and so meanwhile, like I said before, we documents were signed. We placed, we found a place to rent. The money was raised, the equipment was ordered, and months and months and months are going by, and I couldn't make this thing work because it's such a hostile fermentation environment. So I was going all over town, calling up every microbiologist, going to every beer and wine store, asking anybody I knew, reading every book, and basically crash course in microbiology and elements of physics and enzymatic activity and cellular respirate, all this stuff, and I couldn't do it. And it just, I mean, as kind of as a side story, we had moved out into our garage or into our backyard, and we were Airbnb the house so we could pay rent. My wife was still pregnant, and I was just mad scientist,
So
going
not
completely
the
mad.
not the business and the space you rented for the business. You personally and your pregnant wife moved
Yeah,
out of your house, okay, and rented it
yeah,
out. That's commitment.
yeah,
Okay, so good.
yeah.
Keep going.
Well, just yeah. So that's commitment. And then after repeated failures of not having this work, and literally considering throwing in the towel and saying this entire venture is no longer possible. I cannot figure it out. Something is preventing this from happening. 3 weeks before we opened it. So a year goes by when we finally open the brewery and all the equipment and everything's built. 3 weeks prior to turning the brewery online, I landed on the appropriate recipe, and it was like, I can't explain the rush and the wave and the energetics behind it. I threw up my arms. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I was out into the neighborhood,
Nice.
just like the most. It was like a war cry. I won in battle or something. And and but the point I'm trying to make is every day up until that moment, and of letting down my two partners, wasting all of that money. We had put 100%. I had put 100% of my wealth, cashed everything out, put all of the money in, so we could be, a third owner, and so we could each have 33% of the company. And and I almost failed I was failing every single day, but there was some drive, there was some push, there was some like knowing that 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 kept it going. Even though I wanted to cry, I wanted to like run away, I wanted to hide. It was all of this, the whole range of emotions, and but I just kept doing it
That's amazing.
because it was so right. And not like this is why I go back to when I was talking about my kids. You have to learn how to process your emotions appropriately. You have to be able to let them come, just like clouds passing in the sky. You just have to let them come, observe them, and even if they're moving really fucking slow and it feels like total shit, you have to appropriately be in touch with yourself for things to work. And I think that's kind of the main point of knowing when not to give up on something.
Yeah, that's a super story. And I mean, I don't know your process, but you can see the same thing happening, repeating itself in other areas, whatever it is in life. That it's not that you did something successful on day one, and then you did it again on day 100 or 300. It was the 99 days in between that really led you to that leveling up moment. Without them, what you learned along the way and all those things you studied. And I mean, really, I think the theme there is that failure is really only a result if you stop and you quit. But if you learn from it, you learn from those failures, then it's an absolute tool. Whether it takes you in a new direction or you learn something else to keep on the same path, that's really where the magical stuff happens.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like that. I think somewhere in the middle, I that's basically what I started realizing was this. It's not failure. It's just feedback. It's just another.
Right.
It's just whatever's not working is just as important as what is working, because you can rule that out. Like what you're ruling out the non possibilities. You're getting closer and closer by kind of taking the inverse. And dude, it was such a wild ride. And I had full blown allergies, like staying in like the backyard is like all like snotty and shitty, and like I was using all sorts of weird compounds to change pH, and I was building things to adjust the temperature. I went completely mad, and I had there were rats running through my garage, like eating my the nutrients and the sugars, and I was like, I didn't even care. I would just like knock the rat poop aside and just throw it in a batch to try to get. It was insane. I went completely
Full
insane.
mad scientist.
Yeah,
that is awesome. Yeah. you guys, you have such a cool story, and you're 3 years into it, and like such a cool ride. And I know there's going to be a whole lot more to come. So I know you're running up against a hard stop, so we can wrap this up. So just to get it out there, and again, really appreciate the time, Andrew. Boochcraft, you have. I'm going to go grab one right now. Amazing product. So just give me real quickly to make sure I know and where people can find you guys. Website, Instagram. What's the best place to connect?
Yeah, I mean, you just Google it. There'll be a website, and then there's a where to find on our website, so you can see all the locations. You just plug in your zip code, tells you everywhere to find the product. The Instagram handles is Boochcraft as well. Like, it's pretty obvious once you just plug it all in. and yeah, stay tuned we're going to have, special releases every time I hear from a local farm that has some exotic fruit. I'm going to make a batch out of that. And eventually, we might pivot into some new categories. There's so much opportunity for what we're doing that, there's just no pause. There's no break in this. And it's just been this awesome ride.
Perfect. All right. I'll put links as well. And no, thank you, brother. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, man. Anytime. Thank you.
All right. Good stuff. Man, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Andrew dropped so many gems in there. Head over to manofmastery.com/002 for show notes and links to where you can find Boochcraft. Also, head over to iTunes, rate the podcast, and subscribe. You're not going to want to miss what's coming up next week.